What's up, everybody, and welcome to the eCommerce Masters Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Giffen, founder and CEO of Groove Commerce. And I'm really excited to be here today with some really amazing guests that I had met in my travels and journeys. And I was like, you guys have to come on the podcast today. I'd like to welcome Billy Thompson and Randy Choi of Thompson Tee. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks, Ethan.
Doing very good.
It's great to see you guys. It's been a bit. I was trying to think about, we met probably about 2 or 3 months ago and at our eCommerce Masters dinner in Las Vegas. And so for those of you that don't know, we like to have our dinner series around the country in different cities where we put together groups of e-tailers to have a great evening of food and fun and conversation. And you guys... We met at our Las Vegas dinner and had a fantastic evening together.
It was a great evening. Yeah, thank you for hosting that. So we met a bunch of cool people there. Got to meet you, of course, and hear what you guys are all about. Randy had a great time.
It was really cool just to hear everyone's stories. Sorry, Randy, didn't mean to cut you off.
Don't worry about it. Had a good time. We appreciate it, and thank you for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely. So. I will admit, today is my first time, dare I say, menage a trois. This is my first time of us having 3 guests on at the same time.
Okay. Hey, there's a first for everything, right?
Hey,
the sponsors may not like that,
very
but
big.
Yeah. So
Vegas must not have got as crazy as we thought it would have been.
So Billy and Randy have a very, very cool business called Thompson Tee, and you've got a fantastic product. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. The Thompson Tee in a nutshell is an undershirt that blocks underarm sweat. And so we took all the best features of an undershirt, incorporated it with our HydroShield sweat-proof technology, and we guarantee that whatever underarm sweat issues you may have, it's not going to show through. So it keeps it from reaching that outer garment and preventing those embarrassing sweat stains.
Yeah, it's cool. It's such a cool product. It's such a cool technology. It's and I appreciate you're wearing your black tee. I'm a huge black tee guy, right? And so you're wearing your black tee today, and
I am, and Ethan, if I may, this tee, it's a little different than our flagship HydroShield sweatproof T-shirt. This actually is our first foray into an outer shirt. A lot of our shirts, all of our shirts are basically undershirts that you would wear underneath something, and this one we moved into the outerwear space, and so we incorporated what we have is, it doesn't have our sweatproof technology in it, but it has an odor shield technology in it that eliminates some of the odor that you deal with throughout the day. And so we have it. I mean, this is fresh off the press. We have not announced this to anyone. It's not even available on our website yet, but I decided to wear it today for the show.
That's fantastic, and congratulations on a new product.
Yeah. Thank you.
So how did both of you two meet, and what are your individual roles within the company?
I'll let Randy take that one if he wants. I mean, I've been talking a lot, so I don't want to take up all the time.
Well, we met. We knew each other socially. Our wives grew up together, and so we knew each other from get-togethers and just hanging out. And then one day, Billy approached me, talking about this idea he had. And my background,
I wanted to wife swap.
But what do you call it? My background was of manufacturing, domestic supply chain management was, and private label manufacturing was my background.
Yeah.
And he approached me with this idea of that shirt that blocks underarm sweat with this layering technology. And at the time, it was one of those deals where I was like, I get it. I completely understand, because I actually, have this condition where I have hyperhidrosis, and mine was a different form, but I understand the pain that these sweaty issues get you into, and they suck. They really do, and it gets in your head. But anyway, he approached me with that idea. We figured out how to make it, patent it, and the minute we hit the market, it just took off. And there was definitely certain events that allowed us to to escalate and have some jump in growth. But overall, it's been a great experience. And the bottom line, it solved an issue for a core issue, I should say, that affects a lot of people that have excessive sweating in the underarm area.
Well, Randy,
And
I mean, it's really just challenging, right? I mean, it's just if for men, and I think every man knows, another, man or two that has a sweating issue like this. I feel like in terms of, and it can be embarrassing at times and frustrating, and you can ruin shirts in the process and just,
exactly.
all the things associated with that. So your product definitely, there's a very, very clear, ideal customer. I was going to ask for your, who your ideal customer was, but it's pretty clear who that is. It's, it's men who have, who sweat a lot.
Yeah, and Ethan, we actually have a women's line as well. They sweat too, believe it or not. And when we first started, we only had the men's line, and then women were buying our men's shirts and buying the small ones. Yeah, there you go. You can see it there, and they were wearing our men's smalls and turning. So we were like, well, we have no choice. So they kind of pulled it through the channels, if you will, and we ended up coming out with these scoop necks. I think we have a V-neck in there, and I'd say probably about 10% of our sales are the women's line. 30% of our buyers are women, so that means they're buying for the boys and the men in their life. But yeah, we that was another opportunity we couldn't pass up.
That's very, very cool. Very cool. So what was kind of the impetus? What was the process for creating this product? How did you kind of put all the pieces together?
Yeah, that was, as Randy alluded to, this was a project that I tried to get off the ground a very, 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 very long time ago, even prior to meeting with Randy, because again, this was an issue that I dealt with since junior high school, and I had a couple guy friends in my circle that they had the problem too. So I just kind of extrapolated and thought, well, here I am in this small town in Pennsylvania, in this very small school. I think I had 126 kids in my class, and I thought, well, if there's a handful of us here that deal with this, and that's just us. I mean, imagine if you, spread that across the entire country, let alone the entire world. And I said, okay, there's clearly a need for this. But this was going obviously way back prior to even the internet days, so you didn't have really the research that was readily available. So in any event, the missing ingredient of this product was being able to have a waterproof, a washable, dryable, and comfortable material, right? So you just needed those four qualities to really make this thing work. I'm a big, a big stickler for the user experience. So I didn't want someone to have to put an insert into their underarm or create a pocket of anything like that. I wanted people just to the process to stay exactly the same. You put a shirt on, you take it off, you wash it, you dry it, and that's exactly what we were able to achieve. We were able to find and develop sort of this material that we found that had all of those qualities, and I think that's probably about when I had reached out to Randy and brought these pieces to him, and he was able to kind of make it happen. Well, I guess, you know what? Let me back up. Prior to Thompson Tee, I was in private jet sales, and so one of my well-to-do clients had expressed an interest in the product because I had pitched him the product, and so he had told me, okay, well, go get 100 of these made and see how they do, and so that's actually when I reached out to Randy, because I was in that process of trying to get a few of these made versus one or two hand sewn prototypes. And so that's when I reached out to Randy. We connected, and I found out he had a different form of hyperhidrosis. So he knew immediately what I was trying to do. And then it was a lot of trial and error at that point, because something that's so rudimentary, right? We're just putting a waterproof barrier in there. It doesn't work quite like that because of the heat that your body generates. It's kind of like sitting on a leather couch without your shirt on. You can't just slap that against your skin. So we had to create sort of this layering system, and then which resulted into this billowing effect when you would move your arm. And so that would pull in cool air, help mitigate some of that thermal heat transfer from your body, and really just give people the most comfort that we could find in this solution. And that's kind of really how it all came about.
That's so cool. Now, Randy, your background is in manufacturing and fashion.
Yeah, correct. And so it worked out really well because Billy is really good at sales. He has a marketing mindset. My role is more of an operations, product development, product production, and from a owners and a a founder perspective, we jive very well, and we align in every level, and we've gone through the good, bad, and ugly through our Thompson Tee experience. I mean, everything from making it, onto Shark Tank to experiencing the aftermath of COVID, and so it's been a pretty wild ride. I can tell you that much.
Well, I mean, business is just, business is always challenging, right? I think I heard a quote from Quincy Jones, right? Like, you got to, think about the valleys, the peaks will take care of themselves, right? Like, and so you got to make it through the valley. True. And so I think that that's true in any business, right? And I think that, myself included, of being almost 20 years in business, there's definitely peaks and valleys and all different types of things that can affect what you're doing.
100%, Ethan, like 100%. Like that's I think it's good that you brought that up, because a lot of people can glamorize, business ownership, entrepreneurship. It seems to be this sort of trending thing, and it was there for a while. Everybody was a CEO, and startups were in fashion, and they were cool. But at the end of the day, and that is one thing Randy brings to the table that I didn't have prior to this, was he's got, basically, all entrepreneurial experience. I don't think he ever really worked for anyone when he got out of school. So, he's experienced a lot of that firsthand. And, I don't want to sugarcoat it in any way, because I think people need to know that. It doesn't matter top to bottom, small business, large business. I mean, if you're an owner and you're held accountable for the success of that business, it's going to be extremely stressful. I mean, I've heard a ton of people talk about it, from Elon Musk down to, it's like swallowing glass, right? And then you just keep going. I had another analogy. It's like, jumping off a cliff and building the parachute before you hit the ground. And so, I don't want to make any illusions about it. Running a business is extremely stressful and has cost, quite a few people a lot of their health and vitality. I don't want to scare anybody off either, but I just want people to know what they're getting into. I don't want people to assume, oh, you start a business, you become rich, and it's that easy. I mean, at the end of the day, I was reading Elon Musk's, biography, and I mean, probably as recent as that book was written a few years ago, but I mean, as recent as like 2018, 2019, if I recall correctly, he was up at night, literally throwing up, vomiting from the amount of stress that he was dealing with, and that's him, right? That's that guy. So it's something that I think people definitely need to be aware of, so they're not completely caught off guard. And at the end of the day, if you have such bad expectations and you're able to exceed those expectations, then great. And like Randy alluded to, the business partnership that we have, that's another thing that you cannot take lightly. I mean, that's a marriage, right? At the end of the day, you're getting married to somebody. I mean, Randy has just as much impact over my financial well-being and my day-to-day than as my spouse does.
Right. Well, that's one of the cool things that I really appreciated about, the night at dinner, was that people got into really sharing some cool stories, about some failures that turned into positives, or some things that they thought were going to be challenges but ended up working out for them, like with a little bit of giving it a little bit of time. But, I really appreciated the kind of yin and yang of your relationship in terms of how you both work together to scale and grow the business, both marketing and sales wise, and operationally and product wise. And, it's tough to get that balance correct.
Yeah, we got lucky on that. I mean, again, Randy has an operational background, and so our skills complement each other very well. And then more importantly, they overlap enough to where we can keep it all together.
I was presenting to an entrepreneurial class at a local college here in the Baltimore area this week, and I was like, why? Like, don't do it. Run away.
Oh yeah, telling the kids, right? Yeah,
telling the kids. They all see all this, and I told them, I said, listen, all these people on TikTok you see are all full of shit, and they're like, just be careful, right? Just be careful.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm glad you went there, because I guess I'll say it now. I mean, we've never really said this publicly, but I remember when I first met Randy, we were working together. Not first met him, but when we first started working together, I said, "Oh man, so you've never worked for anybody? So you've been running your own businesses ever since?" I said, "Man, so you've been living the dream." And I'll never forget. He looks at me, he turns at me, and he's like, "I guess." If you want to call it that. I was like, "Oh, that wasn't encouraging."
It's not. No, it's great. Yeah. It's the best of the best and the worst of the worst at times.
No,
You
it
know,
is. It is. And that's, and my wife used to tell me all the time, like, listen, it has to be hard because if it wasn't, everybody else would be doing it, right? So it's like, okay.
well, one of the things that people, and I'm sure you get tired of talking about this, right? But one of the things that people want to know about and ask questions about is Shark Tank, right? So you guys were on Shark Tank, and do you mind kind of sharing just a little bit about what that experience was like, just maybe behind the scenes? I was like, I just was like, tell me more at dinner. And it's like, I think people want to hear these stories. So how did you get on Shark Tank, and how did that process kind of go?
Yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, at the end of the day, it was one of the best things that's happened to our business, and it continues to pay dividends. I mean, it's in syndication every time it runs. We see all the web analytics. So Shark Tank is definitely by far one of the best things that's happened to our business. And I think it was, we aired in 2018, I believe. Was it
17.
2018 or
17.
2017? That's right. But we
Wow.
filmed in 2016, right? So we got a phone call. My office called me. I was actually homesick with the flu. I was in bad shape, and I got a phone call saying, "Hey, Shark Tank called." One of the casting directors from Shark Tank called, and I thought, "Oh my gosh!" So I called her right back, and I'll never forget. Her last name was Thompson Tee, so we kind of had that connection. I remember I rallied myself and did this phone call. I barely remember what it was about, but I got through it. And I remember hanging up the phone and just literally crawling back to my bed. I didn't even call Randy after it because I must have used all this adrenaline to get myself through this call.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I was done, it was like I was done. I crawled back to bed and laid down because I was so exhausted. And then at some point I did reach out to Randy. And then from there they just, they kind of put you through the paces, right? You
Right.
go, there's multiple rounds of meetings. We actually went up there for a pre-recording, kind of do a test in front of some of the producers and all that. So they kind of do that. And we had this pitch. So you had to make a video, right? You had to make a video, submit the video, and then from there you go up there and you meet these guys live. So we had to craft this whole video that we did. And that first video was very PowerPoint-esque. Was very, corporate boardroom PowerPoint. Here's my business. This is our business. This and that. Here's our numbers. And we went all the way up to LA. And then it was like 10 o'clock the night before we were supposed to go and actually do the taping of it. And we get a call from a different casting director who they assign you a casting director once you move
Right.
on to the next rounds. And we got bumped. And the reason they gave us at the time as to why we got bumped was because of, Damon John or something like that wasn't going to be there. And he was the clothing guy and they wanted us in front of him and that they would call us. And so, of course, that sucked. That was a bummer, right? Rand and I were so bummed. I mean, we were bummed. I mean, we were geared up, ready to go. Imagine the prep that goes into you're going up to Shark Tank to film. So, and then you find out 10 o'clock the night before that you're not going, right? So, super bummed. And prior to this, one of my other jobs was working at the William Morris Agency in LA, which is, one of the storied mailrooms, right? And so I was in their agent trainee program. So I had a background in the entertainment industry, and I was telling Randy, listen, nobody in Hollywood tells you suck. Nobody will tell you suck, you're garbage, get out of here, because they never know. You might have the next Harry Potter franchise. So I told Randy this, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to lock myself in a room, and I'm literally going to redo our pitch because something's wrong with the pitch, the video pitch. Completely rehauled the video pitch because you have to remember this show is it's entertainment
Right.
at the end of the day, right? It's a TV show. It's entertainment. So rehauled the pitch completely and resubmitted it basically on spec, which is, nobody asked you to do this, to our casting director. And boom, sure enough, she responded favorably, like, yes, that's awesome. And then we were back in the running at that point. So we got back in, we revived this thing that was, basically on life support and nearly dead. And we got back in, and then we went up. They gave us a time to go up there and film. And so we went up there, and as luck would have it, we got bounced to that day to the next day because we were local and they had people flying in needing flights to fly out, but they filmed from like 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening. And so we waited around all day long, and then of course they come tell us, hey, you're going to get bumped to tomorrow. But they were nice, and they put us up in a hotel room. We didn't have any clothes. It was supposed to be a day trip, so we didn't have any clothes, nothing. I mean, toothbrushes. So we had to run to the local Target there, and I think it's Century City. I think that we were at the ABC studios and had to buy some stuff, and they gave us a little trailer that we stayed in during the day, and we got to meet some really cool people. Right, I think we met a bronze medalist. I forget what her sport was, but it was really cool. She brought the medal, so we got to touch that. And then we were first up the next morning, which that had its own challenges, right? I mean, you go through all this, and then 6 a.m. you get up, and you're the first ones that go on. And yeah, there we were. I clearly had much longer hair at that point, so. But yeah, we went on, and everything went well. There was a funny story. I mean, Ray and I had agreed to only accept a deal from, it was I think Lori or Damon, because Lori was the QVC product person, Damon was the clothing person, and we had this total sort of miscommunication on set. They cut it down. We were up there probably for about 45 minutes. And they cut it down to a little less than like 10 minutes or something like that, with commercial breaks, obviously. So there's a lot of stuff you don't see clearly. And long story short, we agreed to do the deal with Robert, and it all worked out. I think that actually serendipitously played into our favor in allowing us to get aired, because that's the other thing too. You don't know if you're going to air. You could do all of this. You can do all this stuff. You can go up there. You can even be in their teaser commercial, and something could happen, and you may not air, right? And so at the last second, they could pull you. So you never know you're going to air until you actually see it. They will call you about 2 weeks in advance to tell you you're going to air, but until you're actually on the TV, it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And so did you end up doing a deal, or did that, how did the process kind of after the pitch with Robert go?
Well, it was a handshake deal on TV, obviously, and they don't know who you are. You are going into this thing completely blind for them, and so it was a handshake deal with Robert. Then the due diligence process starts, and then Randy and I had decided at that point that we thought we'd be better off without doing a deal, so we were able to get out of the deal. A large percentage of the deals you see made on TV don't actually get inked once the process starts, but it was Randy and I's decision to not move forward with the deal.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. And so to this day, you still get traffic every time and sales every time it airs in syndication, which is fascinating to me. Like that, you're going on 10 years with this thing, and
we are,
and it,
yeah, we are. And there's just like yourself, and I mean, the Shark Tank phenomenon was much bigger and has lasted way longer than what Randy and I would have ever anticipated. The doors that just being on Shark Tank has opened for us is huge. There's a pretty big, substantial, like there's all these Shark Tank groups, right? Shark Tank alumni groups that are either online. There's a big one that is having, every year they have a get together of Shark Tank alumni. And it's turned into a fairly large conference. It used to be here in Vegas, and they just had it over in, I think it was Tampa, Florida, maybe. And so that's nothing but Shark Tank, contestants, and we're all sharing our pains and our stories and where we're at different places in the business life cycle and what we're looking for. So it's really cool. It's been, like I said at the beginning, it's been one of the best things that's happened to our business, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's a great story. It's a great story. So what, speaking of kind of pains, like what kind of pain are you guys going through right now business wise? What's keeping you up at night in terms of trying to grow and scale what you're doing?
Yeah, Ethan, you really, that's where we're going with this.
You want me to turn the screws a little bit here on you?
Yeah, we want to open the wound. No, it's really good, and I'm sure Randy could talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same pains that a lot of companies in our position experience, right? Especially the last couple of years, with this massive inflation that occurred. Especially for e-commerce players, the cost of advertising skyrocketed since COVID, with basically all the world having to jump into some sort of e-commerce internet-based business, and the cost of goods, again with the inflation issue, it's just it's just the same story for everybody in this position. If we had, $100 million in capital just to experiment and to basically make mistakes and continue, it'd be a different story. But for somebody in our position and as many SMBs out there, you can't make mistakes right now. Mistakes will kill you. So we're constantly staying very tight with our numbers, our analytics, our people, our teams. And I think that's the story that's going on for a lot of small, medium businesses right now. And, the e-commerce space has changed dramatically, and I'm sure well, this. I mean, you're a guru in the space. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
the ad costs alone,
Oh yeah.
completely
Ad
different
cost,
world from 5 years
everything.
ago.
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like customer acquisition costs are through the roof, cost of
Mhm.
goods are through the roof, like everything is just cost of businesses through the roof. And so we've had to make all these adjustments and just figure it out and roll with it. And Randy and I talk about this ever since really COVID. And pre-COVID, 2019, probably like a lot of businesses, we were in one of the best positions we've ever been in, right? We were, growing and experiencing some new growth and looking to break some major milestones. And then COVID happened, and we're still not quite back to pre-COVID numbers, but we're getting very close. And ever since COVID, it just seems like it's been one hurdle after the other, and it's really been a war of attrition, right? And we're not alone. I mean, there's so many businesses that are in the same boat. But yeah, it's been challenging for sure.
I was when I was presenting to this class this past week. It's an entrepreneurial class, and their job was to basically create a pitch for a business, and they basically go all the way to creating a little website. They've got a little
Okay.
Shopify website, but their whole gist was they were going to drop ship everything. Right. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you guys, like, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, for the aspect of this conversation and for the group project to get a grade, I said drop shipping is fine. But like realistically, and it's fine to get started that way, but realistically, you've got to figure out how to manufacture or assemble some of your own products if you're going to have any margin to be able
Right.
to like put back into the business, because it is so, like, especially when you're reselling other people's products, just like the margins are so thin and tight these days in terms of what the acquisition costs are and what the cost of hosting and all those pieces are of all the apps you need these days to make it all work together. So
Yeah, and
it's
that was a big buzzword a few years ago, right? For every side hustle out there, you could set up a little drop ship business, and maybe 4 years ago, a few years ago, it would have been very, much more viable. But like you said, everyone's in that game now or has done that game, and they're just killing each other's margins, right? It's all about volume. They start moving into the volume play. When Amazon makes it that easy for you to just set up any Amazon business, pull any ASIN you want, and slap whatever price you want on there to try and make it work. Well, people are going to bring those margins all the way down and try and do the Amazon play just to acquire the sale, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's working like for you these days, kind of customer acquisition wise? Is it social media? Is it paid media? Is it email marketing? What channels are you working to kind of drive the best returns?
Well, Randy and I put on our leopard skin thongs, and we go out to the 15 freeway in Vegas and then on the strip, and we hold those signs up, right? And we spin them around like those guys you see, and that seems to give us our best return.
I always, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I don't even know what you call that job, but I appreciate
Yeah.
I appreciate that job. I always wanted to be the Statue of Liberty that's out there in tax
For
time.
the taxes,
For the tax time. Yeah, exactly.
Liberty. Was it
Uh,
Liberty tax or something like
Liberty
that?
taxes.
Liberty tax, yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah,
That's funny.
my goodness. Well, Ethan, it feels like nothing's really working that well, but no. At the end of the day, it's a combination of all of it, right? We have the paid, we have the organic, we have the social, advertising. We do, anything and everything we can. We have a little bit of PR efforts in there too. So really, we try and hit on all of our cylinders to get out there and get the word out. And we have a particularly there's a peculiar challenge with our product, and it's been like this ever since. I mean, we have a product that is solving a sort of embarrassing problem. And so, as grateful and as amazing as our customers are, they'll write in all day long, talk about how life changing this product has been for them. And I get it. They're not as they're reluctant to go out and tell the world that they have this product now because they've been trying to conceal this problem for so long. When they finally have the ability to conceal it, well, the last thing you naturally want to do is go out and then tell the world that you have it, right? So it creates a little bit of a challenge. We don't necessarily get the word of mouth that that maybe some other products would, but that just requires us to kind of again be creative and go out and do as much as we can on all the cylinders that we have available to us, and that we can that we can do with our capital.
I feel like that's a little bit of the thing these days is to make sure that you're you've got the fundamentals of each channel kind of dialed in, right? And I think that they're constantly evolving of what's working and how they're working and the level of investment you need to make in each thing. But there needs to be attention on all the channels that you're working on in terms of doing that. What's kind of next? What do you you've got the new black tees coming. Like what's kind of next for the business?
We do have this new outer tee. It's called the Luxe Tee, right? So it's our first sort of foray into the outerwear and more of a lifestyle brand. I mean, obviously we did black, not just because everyone wears black, but black also hides sweat. So we feel like it's a good option for our customers to go out. Because frankly, after years of wearing our sweatproof undershirt, and this was what I've experienced and what others have experienced is you start conditioning your body to kind of sweat less because you're not worried about it, right? There's this sort of cycle that happens when you see the pit mark, you feel yourself sweating, you see the pit mark, you think, oh no, the anxiety kicks in, and then all of a sudden you sweat more.
Yeah.
So when you're able to kind of break that loop with our undershirt, because it works so amazingly well. I mean, we have a 100% satisfaction guarantee on the product, whether you wear it, wash it, try it for 30 days. That's how confident we are in it, and that's how much customers love our product, that it's not an issue for us. When you break that cycle with a product that works like the Thompson Tee does, so you remove that anxiety. So some guys are able to sweat less. I mean, I love hearing those stories when they're like, I think your shirt helps me sweat less. It's like, absolutely it does. I would love to hear some guys telling us like, hey, I don't need as many of your shirts anymore, or I don't need to buy them as much because ultimately I've conditioned my body not to worry about it, and I've gained the confidence that I needed to not have to have this issue anymore. So getting into the exterior shirt opens us up to a much broader market. There's another product that I've been working on, that we've been working on for a while now, for the past 3 seasons, and it is a stink-free flip-flop. A matter of fact, actually, I got it right here on my desk. It's this flip-flop right here. And so I don't know if you're a flip-flop guy, Ethan, but here in Vegas, when it's 100 some odd degrees, wearing flip-flops helps, right? It definitely helps keep you cool. Oh, there it is, actually. So we started pre-selling them because they were at a massive markdown. But you can see, I mean, these things are, they got this amazing tread on the bottom. They're contoured to fit the comfort of your foot. I mean, they're heavy duty. I've been wearing a pair and busting them up all summer, putting them through its paces. But really, what's in here is there's the same odor shield technology that we use in this Luxe Tee. We've also applied to this footbed, which is a specialized melt-in wool. And what that does is it prevents odor from building up in here. And so people, I was looking for this product. I needed it, and didn't exist out there. I mean, there was a bunch of sort of novel and sort of wonky treatments that allegedly, keep things odor free, but we all know that those don't really last that long. This does. I've been battle testing this product for the last 3 summers, and this was the first summer where I had a full blown prototype to kind of just this exact shoe that we're going to launch with to beat up on all summer long, and it did great, and we're real excited to launch that. I think we're expecting that first shipment to come in April. And we feel like that too could open us up to a broader market, right? Because you don't necessarily need to have, sweaty pits to end up with, kind of smelly feet. I mean, at the end of the day, smelly feet are a little more prevalent than sweaty pits. especially when it comes to flip flops, because all the flip flop material out there is synthetic, right? And these synthetic materials, the odor molecules bond to them, and the odor builds up. So I don't know if you ever realized, like with those golf shirts, those dry fit or whatever. And so that's the same phenomenon that's happening with a lot of the footwear that's out there from a flip flop standpoint. And so, I really kind of fell into this because it was a product that I needed, and I would have just purchased it if somebody had already made it, but it wasn't out there. We looked for it, and I was talking to Randy about it, and we were kicking it around, and it was like, dude, there's nothing like this out there. And you look at the message boards, you see some, people complaining about it, moms talking about their kids' flip-flops, and you can't get that odor out once it's in.
Once
it's in there
you can't
for
get
good.
It out. Yep.
It's in there. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, we'll send you a pair. Summertime's right around the corner.
I'm ready. I'm ready to show my feet off. I'm ready to show my feet off. Well, I like to ask one question, and I'll ask it to both of you. So we'll start with Randy. So if you could give one tip to a brand or manufacturer that's looking to grow in 2025, what would you say to them?
Listen carefully. Capital. Money. Get as much capital as you can in the form of debt, investment, sell your kid, whatever you got to do. It's going to be a money game. We all know that. But it's funny because that's what is always taught. But you always got these young entrepreneurs that think they'll figure it out without capital. And our story, we're very lucky. We're very unique. We were able to pull things off. We only started with a 10 grand each, Billy, 20 total.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we have, we still own the company 100%, but we're unique. I don't think we're the norm, and we were able to do a lot of things that other apparel brands can't do, which was, I had a pretty deep Rolodex of manufacturers that gave us lines of credit, gave me 10,000 piece pricing when we were doing 300 units. All of that, and we're able to flip over and over and over. But I think it's capital. I think capital is king. And then second would be, like you mentioned, making sure you got all your basics dialed in and making those micro adjustments that you should be doing on a daily or weekly basis.
That's great. That's great. Billy, how about for you?
It was what would be a tip to grow in 2025?
Yeah, one tip.
Oh my goodness. I would say enter 2025 as a already successful influencer with a very large audience, and then you could parlay that into something. So
become the influencer first, then business.
Yeah, exactly, right. Become the influencer first, and then you can control your destiny. But no, I wish I had. We're trying to figure that out, right? So we're doing everything, you name it, right? We're trying to use, we're using influencers. Obviously, they're getting more and more expensive, so we're using micro influencers. We have all these things that we are trying, and nothing's like all of it coming together. It seems to be working, but nothing is like the silver bullet. Obviously, new product development, we're on that too, but so what Randy talked about, if we had capital, right, and we could go out and we could pay an influencer that's got several million people following them, yeah, that would be great. But unfortunately, the cost of that is astronomical, and rightfully so. They've built this following up. They control a lot of revenue. So, but yeah, it's I would say try it all and see what works.
The dollar bill.
Dollar bill.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh,
That's
the other
great.
thing too, don't listen to these guys that are out there telling you to drop ship and all that stuff. Most of them are not even proven, and we all know that. It's been all uncovered over the last couple of years, but they're telling you stuff that ChatGPT is telling you to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I told these kids, I said, listen, like a lot of people, especially with all this social media these days, will show you, all kinds of flash of who they are, but you don't know how leveraged they are one way, like you don't know realistically how their business is doing, right? They may be driving a Maserati or a Lamborghini or something crazy, but you don't know how leveraged they are. And
it could be rented, right?
Yeah, it could be rented.
Yeah,
It could be
that's
rented.
the oldest trick in the book. I mean, who was that guy? Dan Corkle, all those late night infomercial guys, right? They were renting all the cars and the jets and putting them all up, shooting these videos. I mean, we're not that far from that now, right? With a lot of the
Right.
influencers that are out there, and my goodness, with AI, your ability to create fake anything is just it's scary.
It is scary. It'll be interesting to see where that goes and evolves. Well, guys, I got to tell you, I really enjoyed our time together at our dinner in Vegas. I really enjoyed and appreciate your time today. I know you're really busy. Appreciate you sparing an hour of your day to come be guests on the show. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everything. It's been a wonderful conversation today.
Yeah, likewise, Ethan. Thank you for having us for dinner that night. I mean, it was again an amazing time with amazing food. You didn't skimp out by any means. I mean, you had a top of the line menu in there. The chef came over and talked to us all. I remember that. And so you really did a good job hosting that dinner. And so we were glad we got to meet everybody. We got to meet some local e-commerce business owners here in Vegas. And so that was really cool. And thank you for having us on the show. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you guys again next time I'm in Vegas.
Oh, for sure. Definitely look us up.
So for all of our listeners on listening to the show today, be sure to check us out on YouTube. We're a video first podcast. Go give us a like there, a subscribe, leave us a comment. We love hearing from you. And if there's anything that we can do, please don't hesitate to reach out. Randy and Billy, thank you again. Really appreciate your time again, and have a wonderful 2025.
Hey, thanks, Ethan. You too.
Thanks, Ethan.